Hello and welcome to the SpiderNerd.com podcast. I'm your host, Jonathan Weber, aka SpiderNerd, the webmaster of the site, SpiderNerd.com. For those of you who just download on iTunes and don't visit the site regularly, first of all, what is wrong with you? And second of all, thank you for listening. But, so today we have a full house panel. We actually have a quote-unquote panel today because we have more than just me and some other person. So first of all, we have Mr. Jacob Blowbaum, a reviewer of Ultimate Comics Spider-Man and Superior Spider-Man Team-Up on the front page of the website. Welcome, Mr. Jacob Blowbaum.
How's it going, everybody?
Good. How's it going with you, Jacob?
Pretty good. How's it going with you guys?
It's going pretty good. And we also have today Mr. Thomas Patterson.
Hello, everybody.
What's up, Thomas?
Just hanging out.
That sounds good. Good. And so, yeah, I'm just going to start this podcast off with a little behind-the-scenes story. This is actually the third time we've had to record this intro to the podcast because we just kept failing at it just epically. First time, Jacob was outside doing very naughty things. Oh, that's really bad. But he was outside doing very naughty things, and the wind was blowing in his mic. And the wind was blowing in his mic. And so we couldn't record without a horrible wind gust in the background. And then the second time, Thomas forgot to come in the intro. And so this is our third take of the podcast, but hopefully the third time's a charm. But yeah, what have I been up to this week? I've been obsessed with the Amazing Spider-Man movie. I watched it on Tuesday for the first time in like a month. Yeah, I watch it usually every month. And really loved it. Once again, I gave it an A+ in my review on the website. But the one thing I did do this week, which is kind of unique, I went out and bought a video game. Well, went out and bought is actually kind of a
misleading.
Yeah, kind of misleading, because I actually just went to the App Store and bought the Amazing Spider-Man video game for the iPhone, which is shit. Pure and utter shit.
It's pretty bad. It is pretty bad.
I didn't even know this game existed, so...
Like, seriously? I mean, from what I know, I think it's the same thing as, the Xbox game or whatever, but...
The Xbox game was fun.
Yeah, but is the voice acting any good?
It was decent, from what I remember. I haven't played it in like a year.
The iPhone game?
No, the Xbox game.
Oh, that one's good. I enjoy that one.
Have you played the iPhone game, Thomas?
Yes, I have. That one's no fun.
Does it have, like, enemies like the rhino and the lizard and all that?
The iPhone game?
Yeah.
It has lizard at the end. It's basically telling the story of the movie.
Damn.
Adding stuff onto it. And whereas the Amazing Spider-Man game for PS3 and Xbox 360 told the story after the game, even though it's not canon.
Yeah.
Okay, well, whoever told me that it was the same game as the Xbox and PS3 was horribly misleading.
Yeah, because Sam Riegel does the voice for Spider-Man in the console games.
Then I don't even want to know who does his voice in the iPhone game.
Oh, you spent $7 on that game?
Yep.
Wow, that's just unfortunate.
I'm assuming you just went to the App Store and looked that up, because there's
Yeah,
no way...
I did.
Because I was going to say, did you just look at my credit card bill or something?
Yeah, I'm a really good hacker. No. Nope,
Okay.
Not at all. Not at all.
Wait, who's hacking?
No one.
Okay.
It's illegal.
Fuck the law. Who cares about the law? Obama sucks anyways.
Damn fascist.
Yeah, we're gonna be so lucky if this podcast does not get shut down. But I think that's the first time in this podcast history that I've dropped an F-bomb, so yeah. But I think one of our co-hosts on the first couple of episodes, his name was Ed Jones, I think he dropped quite a few F-bombs, so I think I'm okay.
I think you're okay. And remember, we have freedom of speech in this country at the very least. No one can take that away from us.
Exactly. First Amendment rights. Gosh damn it.
Mhm.
Okay.
Well, I mean, unless you're talking about after World War One, but that's a whole nother story.
Okay. Well, yeah, so the Amazing Spider-Man iPhone game sucks ass. It really does.
If you want to get a good Spider-Man game, get the Amazing Spider-Man. It's a fun game, and it's cheaper now than it was before. So
See, I don't have an Xbox 360 or a PS3, so the iPhone was the only way I could go.
you could go on the computer. They have it on Steam.
Oh, they do?
Yeah,
I'd be surprised if they didn't have it on Steam.
they have it for $30 on Steam.
Just wait until like next week and they'll have it on sale like Steam always does.
I was not aware of this. I'll have to check that
Yep.
out.
It's a better game than the iPhone game by far.
The
It's
only
almost as good as Spider-Man 2.
Almost.
Spider-Man 2 is a great game.
Yes, it is.
That game is like legendary among Spider-Man fans.
Exactly. Yeah. Yep. That was a
Yeah.
pretty good game. Had the
Yeah.
best Doc Ock ever.
Oh yeah.
Spider-Man 2, the movie, had the best Doc Ock ever, easily.
Yep.
Alfred Molina is just...
He just epitomized that role.
He is Doc Ock to me, honestly.
Yep.
Like, besides the German Doc Ock in the animated series, Alfred Molina is Doc Ock to me.
Yeah, the yellow
I always
jumpsuit
imagine-
wearing German bowl cut Doc Ock is my Doc Ock from the 90s. So, but the movie Doc Ock is definitely number 2 for me.
The movie Doc Ock's my Doc Ock. So.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm
Alright.
just old. I don't know.
Whatever. All right, so let's move into what this podcast is going to be about today. We're not going to bore you with a horribly long intro because I doubt that anyone actually cares what's going on in our lives. But today's topic. First off, we're going to start off with the Superior Spider-Man number 21. And before we do anything with this issue, I want to give a brief synopsis of it. So a basic synopsis is that Stunner attacks the Daily Bugle looking for the Superior Spider-Man. Meanwhile, Peter Puss and Anna Maria are, walking outside after Peter Puss has been accused of plagiarism by Dr. Lamaze. And Spock goes off to, vent and ultimately finds out that Stunner has returned, and he says that he will deal with her himself. Meanwhile, Carly Cooper is placing flowers at the grave of Otto Octavius' body, only to find that the grave is empty and she is kidnapped. And then Spock and Stunner have a fight in the middle of the city. Spock manages to lead her back to ESU, where he endangers Anna Maria and Dr. Lamaze. So ultimately, he manages to save them. And he manages to defeat Stunner by using her own technology against her and creating a virtual reality Dr. Octopus, a VR trooper, I guess, Dr. Octopus. And in his classic Michelini design, which was actually quite nice to see. And he also manages to kill 2 birds with 1 stone with this by using that VR Doc Ock to convince Dr. Lamaze that Peter Puss was not plagiarizing and that he should get his doctorate. Meanwhile, we find out that Carly Cooper has been kidnapped by none other than the Goblin King and the Goblin Colt, and they read her journal and find some very interesting facts about this new Superior Spider-Man. So, before we do anything, let's go around for grades on this issue. So, Jacob, what do you give the grade?
A-.
All right, Thomas, what do you give the grade?
Solid A.
I'm going to give it a B+ myself. So, first talking point before we get into anything, I want to discuss this bugle scene at the beginning here. We actually got to see a nice little bit of a moment because we got the return of Betty Brant and Robbie Robertson, who are classic characters from the Lee Ditko Ramita run of Spider-Man. So, obviously, those were nice characters to see back. What did we all think of this bugle scene?
I liked it.
I thought it was a nice little homage to, the mythos because I felt like it's been missing for a while.
Homage. I've never heard it pronounced that way. Homage.
Well, is it supposed to be homage?
I thought it was homage. I thought the H was silent.
Oh, maybe it's homage.
I've always
I'm
heard
sorry.
it as homage. So
I don't know.
maybe that's just my Midwest showing.
Yeah, maybe this is just my East Coast showing. Maybe we just don't pronounce H's over here. I don't know.
That's possible.
It's very possible. But I like this Daily Bugle scene quite a bit. I felt that it was nice that Stunner was intelligent enough to realize that Spider-Man is usually found in correspondence with the Daily Bugle. I felt that that was a good bit of intelligence for the character. And I also like that Robbie was planning to write an expose on the Spider-Bot situation. I felt that that was nice quite a bit. What did you guys think of that?
I thought it showed a lot.
Nope, go ahead.
I think it showed a lot of individuality for him, and because as a person who's defended Spider-Man for a while, it's kind of nice that he's starting to see some stuff too.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I was going to say.
All right, well, I personally liked it because the thing is, we don't really get a lot of references to the Spider-Bots in the Superior Spider-Man series, at least not as many as I think we should be getting, because it's like, okay, Spock has these Spider-Bots running around the city, rampant, watching and detecting everything and everyone. First of all, there's no way he could get away with that, so that just kind of pisses me off. But second of all, I mean, it's just like, why is no one doing anything about this? And Robbie finally is doing something about this, which I quite like.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I agree, but I also believe that the whole point of it is that Spider-Man's kind of a vigilante type figure, and so how would you exactly tell him that he's not allowed to, besides the newspaper? And so that's kind of a natural way, but I would have expected someone besides Robbie who's been defending Spider-Man, like maybe someone who was waiting for this to happen, like J. Jonah Jameson would have been, and they would have written something about it.
Yeah, I'm surprised it took this long for them to write something about it anyway.
Yeah, I mean, how long has he had the Spider-Bots since? Since, like, issue 4 or 5?
Something like that.
Yeah.
Yes, and this is issue 21, so it's actually taken quite a bit of time for this to happen, but, knowing Dan Slott, it takes 10 issues for a freaking crumb to drop on the floor.
True.
So, yeah.
He's very good about building stuff up, but I felt like this story, out of all the rest that he's written, it's been just for the sake of making sure that he can still write what he wants. And that's it.
Exactly. I couldn't have put it better myself, personally. But, so, moving off from the Daily Bugle scene, we did have the scene of Peter Puss and Anna Maria, and really, I really want to spotlight in this scene, and throughout this whole issue, I want to spotlight Camuncoli's art for this scene. I really, really liked how he drew Peter Puss and Spock in this issue, but especially the facial expressions I felt were very, very well done.
Yeah, he actually really looks genuinely pissed off.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, honestly, to me, this is the craziest Peter Puss has ever looked in this entire series, and I personally bought everything he said about, a robot double or a decommissioned LMD or whatever that is, or whatever, some like kind of piranha or kraken or whatever. I personally believed that he was actually going to, sick some of that stuff on Dr. Lamaze just by his facial expressions alone.
Yeah, I agree. I even expected at the end of last issue when he threatened him and said that he was going to end him, I actually was thinking, oh my gosh, he's actually going to do it.
I honestly thought that as well, but something that actually kind of surprised me is, in terms of this plagiarism allegation plot, this issue picks up right where the last issue left off, which was actually kind of a surprise to me.
Really?
Yeah, I usually don't do that when it's just... Well, because I thought that last issue was kind of like a one-off story, and then this was supposed to start something else or something.
Well,
I felt like that... story was like the start of an arc. Like they even introduced Stunner and everything, so I definitely felt like it was the start of this arc.
I don't know. I was just going off what I read, like outside of the comic itself.
I mean, normally Slott isn't one to continue comics right where they left off, but, you know, this whole thing just really surprised me because, I mean, I didn't necessarily feel that last issue was a one-off issue, but I definitely felt like, you know, this was going to be a plot that was going to build over a couple of issues. But no, it's actually dealt with and resolved in this issue, which is actually kind of nice, but does have its cons to it as well.
I didn't feel like it had any lasting consequences to the fact that he was accused of it. I felt like it was just kind of like, oh, we're trying to leave you with some suspense, but oh, we'll resolve it. There's no lasting consequences from the fact that he was accused of plagiarizing anything.
I mean, I said in our last podcast that I felt that this whole plagiarism thing was the ultimate fall of Peter Puss, and we'll talk about this later when we get to the end of the issue. This issue kind of takes away from that a bit.
Yeah.
I agree, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
The irony that was there last issue about him stealing basically his own work, it just doesn't exist anymore because I don't feel like there's any lasting consequences for Ock, that everything always goes Ock's way no matter what. And so it just kind of leaves like much to be desired.
Exactly. That's one of my big problems with the Superior Spider-Man in general. But anyway, moving on from that, we now have our scenes with Stunner. Sorry, I couldn't think of her name there for a second. Just kind of blanked. But we have our scene with Stunner, and Otto is saying that he will handle her himself. So, we're going to actually skip the Carly Cooper scene for just a minute and just talk about the whole Stunner action sequence. What did we all think of this Stunner action sequence in here?
I thought it was well done, and it was, you know, a way to use Spider-Man's natural intelligence, except it's Ock. So I felt it was kind of different from Ock using his brute force to kind of actually do it the Peter Parker way with using his natural surroundings and his intellect and his wit to get through situations.
Yeah.
I personally, for me, the highlight of this action sequence was the Camuncoli art. I mean, I don't know how you guys feel about Camuncoli, but he's my favorite artist on the Superior Spider-Man right now. And this action sequence really just proved to me how competent of an artist he really is.
I think that the action sequence was very well done with his art, I agree. And I felt like it was one of the best issues with art overall, but I also liked how it was written in a way that was unique for Superior Spider-Man, but not necessarily unique for Spider-Man altogether.
My favorite panel for the Camuncoli art was actually the part where Spider Sense goes off. That was really well drawn and really well colored. I don't know if you guys saw that panel. The pages aren't numbered in my copy of the book, or probably any copy of the book at all. But
Yeah. I'm trying to flip through. Oh, yeah. I'm looking through it. I got the digital version on my phone, so I'm just flipping through that.
Oh, yeah. It should be... It's almost a scene... It's a panel that's almost identical to the previous panel at the bottom of the previous page.
Yeah. I'm looking at it right now. It's really... Yeah, I agree. It's really awesome.
Yeah, it's really well done, and it's followed up by Spock almost being crushed by a bus, which was actually kind of cool. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Awkward silence, but...
Sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. But,
yeah, I really like the way the webs looked when he's trying to catch the bus. I don't know, there's like that scene where he's shooting all the webs and it's like, whop.
Exactly.
I think the way he chemically drew the webs in his hands and everything looks really awesome.
I mean, I personally want to particularly highlight the way he draws Spock, or if you want to call him Spider-Man, you can be, a sinner and call him Spider-Man. But this is Spock, okay? This is not Spider-Man, gosh damn it. This is Spock. But I really, really like how he draws Spock. I feel like the colors really mesh well, and I know the colorist of this issue was not Kamikoli. It was a guy named by the name of Antonia Fabella, I think his name is. That's what it says on the credits page. Antonia Fabella did the cover art, or not the cover art, the color art for this issue. And he does a really, really good job making everything seem vibrant and well-drawn, and he really just brings life to the whole issue.
Yeah, I agree. Mixed with Kamikoli's art, obviously, it looks astounding, and it was definitely one of the best issues in the way the art looked.
Definitely.
Oh yeah, definitely.
This is probably my favorite issue of Superior Spider-Man art-wise that we've seen to date. This was gorgeous to look at.
Like that another panel I wanted to point out, that one where Rutherford Stunner's like, 4 mechanical arms, and Spock's like, no, and then she's like, how dare you, and rips them off. That I just think it looks gorgeous. With all that electricity going around it.
Oh my gosh, yeah, I'm looking at that right now. That looks amazing.
Yeah, it does, yeah. I remember that scene. That was pretty solid.
Especially with the whole little onomatopoeia there. That was a nice touch as well.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like the onomatopoeias are actually very well done in this series, like just in general.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That was just kind of a random point that wasn't really like meant to tie into anything, but exactly. But personally for me, the stunner action sequence, aside from the art, I didn't feel it was very engaging. I didn't feel that the dialogue was particularly well done or anything. I mean, it's basic slot dialogue. There's really nothing special about it. The one big problem that I had with it was that Spock was so willing to reveal himself to Stunner in public. To me,
yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about. I was like, what is going on?
That didn't sit well with me at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, me either.
I
mean, like, he's been very careful so far, and it's just, it's kind of, it just feels like he shouldn't be doing that kind of thing.
Exactly. And I mean, he's been trying so hard not to blow his own cover, and yet here he is almost admitting to his ex-girlfriend in the middle of a public street that he is Otto Octavius and not Peter Parker Spider-Man. And that not only did it almost blow his secret identity as Peter Parker Spider-Man, but it also almost blew his cover as Otto Octavius. So that was kind of a double whammy there, and that really didn't sit well with me that much.
Yeah, I agree. It feels like he's almost trying to ruin everything about Peter Parker's life in every conceivable way before Peter gets his body back. I mean, that would be the only way he could make anything that he's been doing worse, is to let his secret identity out again so that his family can be in trouble again.
Exactly. That's I don't know. That pisses me off. That really pissed me off. But what I did like about the stunner action sequence was I did like the way she was defeated. I liked that he used a VR Dr. Octopus version of himself to sort of calm her down and everything. I thought that was a nice touch. It was kind of using her own technology against her.
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
But the one thing I didn't like in this issue, well, the other thing I didn't like in this issue, was the fact that Dr. Lamaze was so easy to convince that Doc Ock was still alive.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Even though the last issue is like, my recently deceased colleague.
I mean...
Yeah, but didn't they all see him die in the middle of the street?
Yeah, exactly. And then he was all like, human hamburger, I think that's how they put it way back in the day. And then he just looks like he did however many years ago, just walking around, looking all normal and everything.
Yeah, that kind of irritated me because, I mean, first of all, wouldn't they notice that? But second of all, if Dr. Octopus really was alive, don't you think the press would know before Lamaze did?
Yeah.
No.
No, Thomas.
Unless
No.
Okay, Thomas says no. I want to hear this.
Because the press is completely stupid, and then the whole story is built around Dan Slott just trying to make sure everyone's as stupid as possible so the story can continue for as long as possible.
Oh, okay. Yeah, good point.
Yes, but I'm I'm looking at this from the most objective standpoint possible, and when I see that kind of a flaw, I have to point it out.
I don't even know if the press would see it first. The press in our world is incompetent too. So
But Dr. Octopus is a pretty easy guy to spot. Like, you wouldn't just
I mean,
walk...
well, there's
Yeah,
still people
he's
that
just
don't
some
believe
random
Osama
dude
bin
with
Laden's
four-
dead.
That's true. I mean, there's still people who think Elvis is alive, so.
Oh, jeez. Oh, gosh.
Or Tupac.
That just had to make it into this podcast.
Tupac.
Yeah, Miley Cyrus
Anyway.
twerking at the VMAs. Oh, gosh.
Pop culture.
And for anyone who's wondering why I just referenced that, Glee had an episode about twerking lately, so that's why it's on my mind. So yeah, I didn't really like that. I didn't like how he just easily convinced Dr. Lamaze that he was still alive and everything.
I don't like that Lamaze was so gullible, though. Like, I mean, if I was Lamaze, I would have been at least a little bit skeptical. Like, yeah, well, Peter Parker's one of the smartest people I know. So why couldn't he have just made a robot like this? I mean, it's not like that's unprecedented in the Marvel universe.
Yeah, there's robots everywhere.
You know, that's a good point. I didn't even think of that.
There's a damn robot in the next panel.
Oh yeah, yeah. There is a damn robot in the next panel. That's very true. So yeah, but yeah. Ultimately, we didn't really like that scene very much. But the final scene that in the final part of this issue that I want to talk about is Carly Cooper's whole plot. First of all, what did we think of her mourning the loss of quote unquote Otto Octavius, aka we really know him as Peter Parker?
I thought it was awesome because anytime that she gets even closer to spilling the beans on Doc Ock, I'm just like, yeah.
I felt like that wasn't a smart thing to do. I felt like if you had evidence like that, you wouldn't take the chance to lose it anywhere.
Well, yeah, true.
So the first thing you do is go and tell them, and then you could mourn the loss of Peter later.
You know, I've heard a lot of people making that point, and personally, while I did like this scene, like I liked it quite a bit because this is the kind of scene that Dan Slott doesn't usually give us. This is kind of an emotionally powerful scene. What with her mourning the loss of her ex-boyfriend, one of her best friends, she's mourning the loss of him, and that's kind of an emotionally powerful scene. But at the same time, why the hell hasn't she gone to the Avengers yet?
I
Well,
would have
I guess
gone
she
to the
did
Avengers first and then gone back to mourn him as soon as the
Yeah.
Avengers are taking care of Spock.
But see, that would leave less time for Dan Slott to tell the rest of his story because he doesn't want that to happen.
Yeah, because we all know that's the Superior Spider-Man must go on as long as possible just to piss the fans off.
Yeah.
That's basically what this whole thing is going off of, is just this amount of rage that he can accelerate towards the fans that actually like Peter. Because
Yeah, and
all
I
too
hate
often
that
when
I like Superior too. Like,
there are people. Most of the people that are reading Superior Spider-Man that weren't reading The Amazing Spider-Man, they tell me that they hate Peter Parker and they're glad he's dead, and that they prefer Doc Ock as Spider-Man.
Wow, I didn't know that was a demographic.
I was going to say, I've never heard of anyone who hates Peter Parker.
Yeah, me either. I didn't know there were people that
You
read
should check out
Superior that
CBR
didn't.
sometime.
Maybe, apparently.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but I don't even know how to respond to that, honestly. But so the next thing we find is that Carly Cooper has fallen into the grave and that there is no body. So what do we think that the goblins have Otto's body, or what do we think of this?
Well, I feel like they were. I don't know if they were really surprised at finding out what they found out about the Superior Spider-Man from Carly's journal, but it doesn't seem like that would have been the case. So I think that Otto may have overlooked maybe the fact that he maybe his arms are able to reinvigorate him somehow, reinvigorate his body once he dies, or maybe the arms carried him away afterwards anyway. And Peter Parker in Ock's body is still dead, but the arms are around moving his body somewhere to reinvigorate it somehow, resuscitate him. No, resuscitate.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking a Batman at the end of the Dark Knight Returns story when he like fakes his death to Superman and then comes out of the grave later. I don't know if any of you have read that, but
he's
spoilers.
like Jesus. He rose from the grave.
Yeah, there you go. Like Jesus.
Yeah, we had to bring Jesus Christ into this podcast. We had to do it.
Well, Spider-Man is Jesus. Get it right, people.
Except it's a little more than 3 days.
Yeah, it's been a few months as established by the last issue, I think it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was established in the last issue that it's been a few months since the death of quote-unquote Otto Octavius.
Yep. But who knows how long the body hasn't been there?
Yeah, I mean exactly, because we saw Peter Puss mourning the loss of Peter Parker at the beginning of the first issue. This is the 21st issue, so this is 20 issues later. Who knows if the body was even there at all?
Yeah. And so that raises an interesting question, but I feel like with the amount of subplots and stuff, Dan Slott's I think it's almost like Dan Slott trying to make the story interesting while Ock is still in Peter's body for as long as possible. Because the moment it doesn't become interesting and the sales start to drop, Marvel's going to make him bring Peter Parker back. So he's just trying to find ways to make sure that he can keep the plot going as long as possible.
Yeah, pretty much. But so that's really all we have to cover with this issue. It was a pretty decent issue. I did have a few problems with it, but overall it was a good issue. So final grades, Thomas, what's your grade?
I'm gonna stick with my A.
And Jacob, what's your grade?
I'm gonna stick with my A-.
And I'm actually gonna lower to a B. I actually, I started off at a B+, but after talking about some of these points, I actually feel like they are bigger than what I made them out to be, so I'm actually going to lower to a B. So, so we got an A, an A-, and a solid B. So that's a fairly positive reception to this issue. It was a pretty decent issue. It had its pros and cons, but ultimately it was decent enough. All right, so that concludes our issue review for this week. And now we're going to move on to a segment that I literally just came up with this morning. We're going to be discussing our top 3 Spider-Man cartoons. We're going to list them in increasing order from 3 to 1, or descending order, whatever it is. We're going to list them in order, starting with number 3. Number 2, number 1, and we are just going to explain why we like them, and maybe we can get a bit of a discussion going here. So, Jacob, let's start with you. What are your top 3 Spider-Man cartoons, and why?
I'm trying to think of a third. I've been trying to think of that all day when you told me about this. Probably, I was going to go with the Spectacular Spider-Man, because I've actually watched a little bit of that at least. And then Ultimate Spider-Man, and then the 90s one.
Wait a minute. Did someone just say Ultimate Spider-Man?
I'm leaving.
Not because it's like...
This isn't happening.
Good. I'm just going for the 3 cartoons that I've watched. I haven't watched all of them.
Okay.
But...
that makes me feel a little bit better.
See, I don't... Going back earlier when I said that I kind of try to set my expectations low so I'm not disappointed. That's how I went into Ultimate Spider-Man. Like, all right, this is made for 5-year-olds. So I'm going to take it like that and just not take anything that they're saying or how that this is like Spider-Man seriously. understating it as like, just trying to be goofy and entertaining to children.
Yeah, but I also came into it thinking that this better be worth the Spectacular Spider-Man being canceled.
See, I didn't really watch much of the Spectacular Spider-Man. I've seen like 4 or 5 episodes, and then Ultimate Spider-Man got put on Netflix. I was like, all right, I guess I'll watch this then. And I just thought it was entertaining if you don't take anything seriously.
Since this is an audio show, you listeners can't see me, but I started doing the shame on you motion with my fingers when Jacob said that he hasn't watched a lot of the Spectacular Spider-Man because damn, that show is awesome.
It is awesome.
I do need to. I'll admit that.
I have almost
find
all
myself
the
going back
episodes
to 90.
on DVD.
I have all the episodes on iTunes, and I keep them all on my phone.
Man, I love that show.
Let's just move on to someone else.
So, Jacob, what's your order? Do you have... So, you would place Ultimate Spider-Man third?
Sure. I said Spectacular Spider-Man third, and then Ultimate second, and then 90s first, just because those are the ones I've, watched and then pretty much in, how many episodes and how I've watched, or how much I enjoyed it.
All right, so Thomas, we're going to move on to you.
All right, so my third favorite is actually Spider-Man, the new animated series. That one only ran for a season on MTV. It's the CGI animated one. I actually really enjoyed that. It served pretty much as a continuation off of the original Spider-Man movie. It was during 2003, and they had some pretty interesting origins, including they included Fisk, Wilson Fisk in it, and I basically liked every episode except for the fact that Peter always wears the same purple pants.
Oh, jeez.
It was enjoyable, and the action scenes were pretty well done for CGI, and I liked the artistry behind it. So I definitely like that series. I definitely like the 90s series that I watched. They still have it on Disney XD at night sometimes, and so I'll watch that. And I like that one. I have a lot of those DVDs too, storylines, and I like how they broke it up into story arcs per chapter. And it just felt like it embodied an older kind of Spider-Man that I expected to have happen more than the new animated series did, even though I did enjoy the new animated series. And number one for me is the Spectacular Spider-Man. That one is the one that personally embodies the Peter Parker that connects most to me, and just the Peter Parker that I always prefer to read in the comics, a young, inexperienced, but still responsible adolescent. And so that's basically why Ultimate Spider-Man's at the very bottom. Think of every other Spider-Man cartoon that you could think of, and it goes above Ultimate Spider-Man.
Yes, that's pretty much true. I've only seen 2 episodes of the new animated series. Is it really that good?
It's pretty good. It's only 13 episodes long, and it felt like it should have been more, and it was a huge cliffhanger at the end and everything. But I enjoyed it. It's a solid series, and it told the story pretty well. I wouldn't go out as to say it's better than the 90s animated series because it's not, but it was solid. It was a pretty good series.
To be honest, that's actually more surprising to me than Jacob putting Ultimate Spider-Man on his list, because that's not a series I usually think of. So, yeah, pretty solid list there, Thomas. So, my list. My third favorite series, and I'm actually surprised neither of you mentioned this, I really, really like Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends from the 80s.
Oh, yeah, I've never really watched that.
Yeah, I really, really liked that series as a kid, and I still like it today because I remember when I was a kid, and during when I first got into Spider-Man in 2004, they were airing reruns of the 90s series and Amazing Friends on it was Toon Disney at the time. It's now Disney XD. But they were airing reruns of those 2 shows, and I remember I fell in love with both of those shows. I'll get to the 90s series later on in my list, but, I really, really liked Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. It had a solid main cast, Spider-Man. It introduced Firestar into the Marvel Universe, which I thought was pretty impressive. And it also had Iceman, who quickly became my favorite X-Men, even above Wolverine. So, yeah, for anyone who couldn't hear that was all of the X-Men nerds in the world turning this podcast off because I just said I like.
I turned this podcast off. I'm kidding.
Yeah, well,
You're still here, so you obviously didn't.
ooh,
It was a joke, guys. Come on.
We have to ruin everything. Didn't you listen to our last podcast?
Yep. I had a joke, and he goes ahead and ruins it, like everything else.
Fuck you. But anyway, so and there's another F-bomb for you all. So, but just so you know, Thomas and I are friends, so we will say that to each other. But here we go. What was I saying? Oh yeah, it also, it had a solid cast. I really liked it. I thought the voice acting was very, very good. I felt that it was very well acted. The animation was good enough for the 80s. It wasn't anything big or special, but it was good enough for the 80s. And ultimately, I really, really liked it. I just felt that the three of them, Spider-Man, Firestar, and Iceman, I felt that they worked really well together. They had a really fun group dynamic. And really, it was a very fun show. So, that leads me to my second favorite Spider-Man cartoon, which is The Spectacular Spider-Man. Now, I know this is Thomas's favorite, but, I really, really did like this series a lot. Personally, for me, I didn't start watching it till episode 7 of season 1, mainly because only because I didn't know I had the channel that it was aired on my TV. So when I finally found that I had that channel, I started watching it immediately, and I really, really enjoyed it. Josh Keaton's a solid voice actor for Spider-Man. I really enjoy his voice. He's really, really good. The animation is superb in the series. It's very good. The writing is excellent. Each episode left me wanting more, and I just really enjoyed the series overall. It was very, very good. And my favorite Spider-Man cartoon has to be the 90s series. That was the series that I grew up with, and to me, to me, that is Spider-Man. To me, Christopher Daniel Barnes as Peter Parker Spider-Man is Spider-Man to me.
Mm-hmm.
The animation, yeah, it's 90s animation. A lot of it's recycled animation. But to me, the parts that, are original, they look gorgeous to me. They really are well drawn. They're well done. The voice acting is fantastic, even with the German Doc Ock and everything. Personally, to me, the German Doc Ock became the voice I hear for Doc Ock in the comics.
Same.
So that kind of influenced my decision a bit.
And that theme song.
That theme song. Boy, oh boy, I love that theme song.
I have to give you the theme song. That one's the best theme song out of every Spider-Man cartoon.
Some of my top 5 favorite cartoon theme songs ever.
It is very good. It is very, very good. And I just have to say, it had a solid run. It ran for 5 seasons. It ran, on average 13 episodes a season. Like Thomas said, I think it was Thomas that said this, that I liked how they broke it up into story arcs and chapters and everything. I liked that. There was just so much about that show that I felt they did right, and I didn't feel that there were very many flaws with it. So that's got to be why it's my favorite. And plus, I grew up with it.
That's the show that introduced me to Spider-Man back in 1994 when I was 2.
Yeah, see, with the Spider-Man cartoon, I just felt like putting it into story arcs liberated the story to the point where it was able to tell a large overbranching arc that would have been made for a movie in a TV show. And so that worked really well for it. And I feel like one of the strong points is that Spectacular Spider-Man sort of picked up on that. They did their little story arc thing, 3 episodes, covers a month, and they all have interconnecting themes in them. And so I definitely like that about the Spectacular Spider-Man 2, basically how it emulated the original franchise.
Very well said. Very well said. So, yeah, do we have any other cartoons that we should mention? Any honorable mentions for our lists?
The 60s cartoon.
See, I've never watched the 60s cartoon. I've never seen a full episode of it. I was going to give it an honorable mention, but I didn't think I should just because I haven't seen enough of it, so...
Well,
I'm going
I've
to give
seen
that
it.
my honorable mention.
Yeah, same. The theme song. Everybody knows that song. The Spider-Man. Yeah, that one. The ones that Ramones covered, and it was in, what, was it the first Spider-Man movie? That random Asian lady in the alley was playing her violin.
Yep.
No, that was the second movie. I think.
Was it the second one?
Well, the first one also had it.
Yeah.
Yeah, the second movie...
yeah, this first one had the dude in the subway.
Oh no, it was the
playing
guitar guy. It was the guitar guy.
Yeah, and then the second one had the Asian lady playing it. Yep.
When Thomas said guitar guy, I instantly thought of Jeff Dunham. And we'll move on, because no one apparently gets that reference. Okay, so, yeah, so that's going to do it for our top 3 Spider-Man cartoons. That was a completely throwaway segment that I came up with on the fly just as something for us to talk about on the podcast. So, series that made it onto everyone's list, it sounds like Spider-Man 1990s and Spectacular Spider-Man, positive reviews around the board. So, that's pretty good.
Yay!
Yeah.
My favorite show and my second favorite show.
Yeah, exactly. My second favorite show, my favorite show. So, exactly.
Another thing. I still have some of the McDonald's toys from the 90s cartoon on my shelf of toys. Like, they had little McDonald's toys for the 90s cartoon. Look them up on eBay
They
or
made McDonald's toys.
Oh, look them up on eBay. They're awesome. I have Spider-Man, Doc Ock, and then Spider-Sense. Peter Parker, his head flips, so in half of his face is the mask to show you it has Spider-Sense.
Back when McDonald's toys were actually cool.
Hey, Beware the Batman toys are actually pretty cool. I actually got some of those, and I'm 21 going through the McDonald's drive-thru getting kids' meals. Guess how cool I felt.
Yep. Okay. So that's going to do it for our top 3 Spider-Man cartoons. And that's also going to do it for this episode of the SpiderNerd.com podcast. So, Jacob, any final words for the listeners before we sign off?
Go watch the 90s cartoon.
Definitely. Thomas, any final words for the listeners before we sign off?
Go watch the 90s cartoon and the Spectacular Spider-Man cartoon.
All right. And I'll just say, go do whatever you can that's Spider-Man related. So, go do something Spider-Man related.
He outdid both of us.
Yep.
Yeah.
Pretty much. And so, that is going to do it for this episode of the podcast. So, we will see you guys next week. See ya.
Later.
Bye.